Hello people, and welcome to the first video on my channel. I'm just going to be doing a nice little Neo-Nectar deck profile. This is just the Stand Peony deck. The Stand Peony deck is probably one of my favorite clan selection decks, and probably one of the more fun decks I have from Standard. We're just going to get straight into it. I don't have too much to say about this deck until we get into it, so we'll get straight into it. The starter, we just play the one I had a foil of. So I had a foil of it, so I played this one. And then for the grade 3s, I'm only playing Stand Peony. I know a lot of people play the either play the trial deck Asha or the Arbros Dragon grade 3. I tested them both out quite thoroughly, and I just found that they didn't do much. Going first, they were kind of neat to ride first before you rode your Stand Peony, but I ended up finding that just replacing them at grade 2s and getting the turn 2 rush is just so incredibly nice. So I ended up cutting them all for more grade 2s. Speaking of the grade 2, this is one of the ones I bumped up, and it is 4 copies of Sylvia. Now Sylvia on place just calls a token. That's all it does, is all it needs to do. It's just makes a full column for itself, and that's insanely good for the early game rush. On your grade 2 turn, you can just ride this sucker or call this sucker, get a token, and you can start comboing off from there. The deck needs tokens to play, and most of your grade 2s actually don't call tokens. So I just wanted another grade 2 that calls a token without a cost. The only other token generating grade 2 I play is Triple and Nelma. Now at first this was the trial deck grade 2, it's Counterblast 1 call 2 tokens. But I found that the deck just really liked the draw to help combo off more in your grade 2 turn and help make sure you get into your grade 3, because you only play 4. And then the Soul Blast is kind of funny because it actually comes up sometimes to get your Maiden of Flower Carpet into your drop zone. Because it's really nice to have that card in drop zone, but sometimes you have to ride it because it has our on ride. It has a Vanguard skill 2, which is really nice. So it's really nice to get it in the grave, in the drop. Especially since you just don't have much Soul Blast and you don't need Soul really, except for Nelma and like one of my grade 1s. And then for the combo pieces, we have Maiden of Fallvine. This card's insane. You can call it over a token to draw a card and gains plus 5k. And it just helps combo off on your grade 2 turn, hit big numbers to push your opponent to bigger damage. Generally on your grade 2 turn, you can put your opponent on 4 to 5 damage, depending on if you hit a crit or not. And it's just insane. Most of the time they just can't guard it, and if they do guard it, their hand was a bunch of triggers. So it means you're not super scared of their follow-up play. And I see a lot of people, especially like WCC channel, is really a big fan of the Arbros deck because it gives you something else to do on your first turn. They don't really like the aggressive style of this deck. But I feel like because the deck doesn't need the extra oomph from the Arbros Dragon on its first grade 3 turn because of how much resources it's ripping from the opponent on its grade 2 turn. And if not, it's putting them on a big enough damage to where if you can just survive their first grade 3 turn, you can kill them on the crackback. The only problem comes with the fact you only get 1 force marker on your first grade 3 turn. So one of your token columns is going to be swinging into a rear guard. And if that rear guard was able to intercept, then you do lose a free attack, which can suck, but if you're making your columns big enough, it shouldn't matter. And if you get a trigger, you get another column, and you get that column anyway, but you can't really count for those. It's just, I feel like from all my testing, which has been a bunch, that I found this version was just a lot better and had a much higher win rate. The only other grade 2 I play is Maiden of I've always called this one Maiden of Nep, so I don't actually know its real name. But Maiden of Nep retires a token to draw a card, and it gains boost in 5k. And let me just say, this card getting boost makes your grade 2 turns insane. You can do some insane turns with this, especially like you can like call a token with like Sylvia, and then call this sucker, pop the token to draw a card, and then if you call a grade 1 that makes a token, you can call like this sucker over the token to draw another card, and you just keep comboing off from there, just have huge grade 2 turns. That's it for the grade 2s. Run quite a bit. Let's see, it's 4, 8, 12, 15 grade 2s. It's a little much, but you really just want to have a hand full of grade 2s on your grade 2 turn. For the grade 1s, the only grade 1 that doesn't generate tokens is the grade 3 Searcher. Again, we only play 4 grade 3s, so you just want to guarantee that we get a hold of it. And it being a 13k booster is really nice on your grade 3 turn. Because your first grade 3 turn, you aren't getting the plus 10k bonus from your stand Peony. So you're going to want to have this behind your Vanguard so you can make sure it can hit over defensives. It just makes a 26k column, which is really nice. But other than that, it's just like, it just searches for your stand Peonies. You're going to be able to re-ride your stand Peonies, farm markers, and then after you get your second stand Peony, you really don't need it anymore. And you should have won the game. You should win the game off your second stand Peony anyway. So you can just start ditching them from your hand size after that. And then 4 of one of the MVPs. He's like Maiden of Flower Carpet. Yeah. So Maiden of Flower Carpet on place calls a token, which is really nice, just free token. And then during the end phase, you can retire 2 tokens to bounce it back to your hand from drop, and that's insane. It's just really, really nice to have. If you guarded this early game, or if you rushed your opponent with it early game, and then they attacked into it for some reason, like you hit a defensive, or if it gets soul blasted out for a Nelma, it's just easy to set up. And getting the tokens help combo off with your grade 2 lineup, so you can get bigger power. So you hit your opponent with higher damages. Especially if you're going second, cards like this can make your grade 1 turn just insane. Especially when you I play this card. This is Maiden of Sweetberry. Now Maiden of Sweetberry is also just a free token. It also has a soul charge and a plus 5k on your grade 3 turn, which is cute. It doesn't come up that often. Normally this comes up on your early game rushes more than your late game rushes. Because your late game rushes, your field's not going to be... you're not rebuilding your field as much. Because your opponent's not killing tokens. And if they are, and your front row tokens are getting just killed anyway by your Flower Carpet. So it doesn't come up very often that this comes up in the late game. But in the early game, it's very, very nice. Especially because it says Vanguard, Rearguard. And now the big problem with the deck is the last 2 cards are a big flex spot. At the very beginning, I was running this card that I don't remember its name, but it's on place Counterblast 1, all your tokens get plus 10k. And it was very cool to play for like a final push on your second grade 3 turn. But I just wanted more cards that played before my grade 3 turn. So I ended up playing Maiden of Blue Lace. Now this card also is a Soul Blast, which is kind of neat because it can get the Flower Carpet into the drop zone. But it also gains 5k power, which is just really nice. It comes with 13k booster. Plus with the token, if you put it in the same column, it's 18k. So it gets our defensive if you're going second. It's just a really, really nice card to have. And it's more token generation for your grade 2 turns. And it just really helps kill your opponent early. And then for the trigger lineup, I kept going back and forth on the Sentinel choices between draws and crits. The obvious thought process is to play the crit Sentinels because you want your opponent to die quicker. You want them to you just want them to take a crap ton of damage early game, so you can try and push them for game while your first stand Peony turn. But I also tested draws quite extensively, because the PG comes up quite a bit in between your grade 2 and grade 3 turn. If your opponent just took all the damage and then tries to kill you, especially against like a Gavriel deck, it can come in big handy on guarding the Gavriel itself. Because sometimes the Sentinel crit, if your opponent triggers and put on their Gavriel before they hit the Hamiel, the critical Sentinel sometimes just can't guard it enough. You have to 2-card guard it. If I'm 2-card guarding it, I might as well be PGing it. And there's other decks besides Gavriel that need PGs on, especially like Night Rose. Night Rose is another deck that you basically need draw PGs to win against their grade 3 turn. But to be honest, after all my testing, I found my highest win rate came from crit Sentinels. So I did end up going with the crit Sentinels. My biggest loss rate is to the Gray and Blue Night Rose deck, but it's not as bad as you would think. Most of the time, you can actually just kill them on your grade 2 turn if you rush hard enough. It's very, very hard, but it is doable. And sometimes when their first grade 3 turns are a little lackluster, and they have to use cards like the ships and the Banshees to draw cards instead of using their the big dragons, the skull dragons, to try and kill you. And if they're using the ships, you're getting an extra turn, and then you can start swinging at face again. So we are just playing 8 more crit. I don't own the carrot crit, because normally I like to run all crit arts. I'm just kind of weird like that. I like running a bunch of different arts in my deck, but I don't have the carrot art, so I'm just playing the generics. And then I do play the 4 heal. I tested 16 crit quite extensively. It came to the point to where the heals just impacted the game more. Checking a early game heal can make some of your later grade 3 turns happen more often, which is really nice, because sometimes the deck has an issue to where it doesn't make it to that second grade 3 turn if your opponent just accumulates a large sum of cards in hand. So this really just helps extend the game sometimes. It's extra 5k shield, which if you learn from Overdress anything, 5k shield is basically like having an extra card in hand in Overdress. So in Vanguard 0, and V, it's really like having half a card. But it's still really, really nice to have just a 5k shield. A 20k shield guards a lot more in our current meta than a 15k shield. So it is really nice to have. But obviously we don't care as much about defense as we do about offense. And offensive heals do allow for extra turns. And extra turns allow for extra damage. But I could be persuaded in more testing to go back to 16 crit. It's just, it feels weird not playing heals. So I do need to do more testing on this. But right this second, I am more comfortable playing the 4 heals. And then, obviously, just some tokens. I have no preference on the token art, so it's just the one I had the most of. Then we have Trial Deck Asha. Yeah, this is just the deck. The deck's insanely fun. This deck's insanely good. I think it's not tier 1, I would say, but it's definitely a high contender and something you should definitely know what it does. If you don't play the deck, at least knowing what it does and how it plays is very handy in knowing how to beat it. Just like almost every deck. If you can play it, you can beat it. So I do hope this video was nice. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you either learned something, or if I messed up on something, you have a better theory. I'd love to hear in the comments. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed. See you next time.